Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Flipping the Barrel, a podcast where we interview energy leaders in this space who Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we have the amazing Glenda Valero de Silano, who is the Chief Learning and Talent Officer at Chevron. She's the first Latina CLO at Chevron, and we couldn't be more proud of her because you'll see through her story the amount of amazing accomplishments and just challenges that Glenda has had to overcome to get to where she is today. You'll see how truly remarkable she is. We're super proud of her because, representation does matter. And all us strong Latina women looking at somebody like Glenda, who has climbed to the top of Chevron and who keeps showing up every day to help and support her community is really just amazing. Glenda has been at Chevron for over 20 years, and she started with them in her country of Venezuela, which we will get into in the first question, so you'll hear all about that. And before we get started, I wanted to highlight her LinkedIn title, which I thought was it literally encompasses who Glenda is, and you'll see after this podcast how it's Glenda in one nutshell. She's a global HR leader. She's a mother. She's a heart health advocate. She's a proud Latina. She's a runner, CFCU board director, a book co-author, and a Fulbright alumni. Well, Glenda, you're such an accomplished woman. Thank you so much for saying yes to coming on the podcast. And I know everyone will learn so much about you and just be truly inspired after they listen to your story.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Massiel, for the invitation. I'm super excited about talking about my journey, and you made me feel happy already by saying all those nice words. So thank you so much for that humble interview and introduction to me. So anyway, I'm excited about getting to talk to you, and also hopefully some others can learn from that and take some lessons there, so they sometimes don't have to go through things that I had to go through the way that I did. But again, looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks, Glenda. And that's the whole point of the podcast, I would say, is take advice from people who have been in the industry for 20 plus years, who have been through it all, and to just learn, because it could definitely help someone that's listening to this and maybe going through something similar, that sees someone like yourself having overcome it, and then they can have that positive attitude that they can too. First question, let's get straight into where you're from. You grew up in Maracaibo, Venezuela, which is a big oil town for those who don't know. And your father was very, very strict. I remember you mentioned this to us when we first did your pre-interview, and you mentioned how you did have other sisters, 2 others, I believe, but he was not as strict with them as he was with you because you were the oldest. And he knew that they were looking up to you and you were the role model. And so tell us a little bit about what that was like, growing up in Maracaibo, but also having your dad be so strict and make sure that you were going to school, that you had the best grades, and that you had, a set future.
Yes, thank you. Yes, my dad. So we're a family of 3 siblings. I'm the oldest, like you say. I have a younger sister and a brother. He's the youngest, Maria and Jaime. And since I was little, he was very strict on making sure I focus on doing the best that I could to get the best education that I have. I remember even when I was 5 or 6, I had something that I missed in school, and I got my school report, and he said, no more flamenco classes until you get your grades up. And this is like, I was tiny. And he marked and set the bar as to, I have to get my act together. He was an insurance agent. My mom was a stay-home mom, so they did not graduate from college. They only had high school degrees. So for him, he said, Glenda, I have no money or properties or a business to leave to you. So all you can do, all I can give you is education. So he will do anything for providing not only the core education that I needed, but also additional activities like English lessons. I started English lessons since I was 8. Because he said you're gonna be able to go to school in the United States, and to do that you need English, and that's gonna open so many doors. So even going all the way to paying private lessons, which for him as an insurance agent was a sacrifice. So he said, no slacking. If you slack, no, all A's. If you did not get an A, you were grounded until you make it up. So again, from the beginning, he said that bar high, and he made me always be the top of the class, always getting good grades. And he said, you're the role model for your younger siblings. So he was not cutting out on any slack on me. Again, if I said anything that has to do with education, I wanted to learn French, he paid for French lessons. You need extra books, he will say, no, if it's education, I'm fine. I'll make my sacrifice and figure it out as long as it is that. And yes, I did not have other leisure activities like my friends did. But again, he said, I don't have lots to give you, but it's going to be education because I see the future and you can be better than you or your mom did. So go ahead, have at it. And if education is a platform, let's do it. So yes, it was hard. I remember now, I thank him now if he was alive. I don't think I ever had a chance to talk to him about how hard it was. But if he wasn't, because of that, I don't think I'll be where I am today.
That's incredible, and I think reflecting on your childhood, there are stories like that where you do think back on just how hard maybe certain parents were, etc. But, you are a young girl from Maracaibo, Venezuela, to now the chief CLO at Chevron in California. That is crazy, right? Just to think about all that had to happen from there to now in 20 years. And you're right. I don't think necessarily a lot of it would have happened if it wasn't for him early on instilling that hustle, that work ethic from the beginning to make sure that you were going to become somebody today. And so he would be so proud of you if he was alive, because you've accomplished so much in all of these years. So the other thing I wanted to ask you is, you mentioned Maracaibo is a big oil town. We've had other guests on the podcast who were from Maracaibo. What was the oil and gas industry back then for this city and for yourself? Was this something that you were looking at as, oh, this is kind of the industry to be in? This looks like a great industry for me to go to. Were women going to the industry? Like, bring us back to growing up and knowing that Maracaibo is an oil town. Did you ever think you'd go work in Chevron or an oil company there?
I did not. Actually, I did not. We know about Chevron and the visible present. We know it's a foreign company, right? The foreign company, oil again, PDVSA and all the oil industries, it's the backbone of the whole country and heavier in Maracaibo. So yes, we grew up with that influence from North America and baseball and music. And we had the clubs that were for the oil companies, employees. But I never thought I would go into the oil and gas because I thought I couldn't reach that level of a company. Everybody knew that the benefits were very good and that the competition to get in was difficult. So not in my ever mind thought that I would end up working there. It just happened to be all a combination of things that brought me to Chevron. But we knew that we're out there working for the community. I had friends that worked in the national oil company and the other foreign companies that were there. Initially, I wanted to go into politics. That's why I got a political science bachelor's degree first. And again, destiny brought me to Chevron. And again, it was a validation of all the things that I had thought and heard about from my friends. But is that again, is the backbone of the country where you're feeling not only the production of the money the country needs to run, but also all the projects that they had to help the community was the other part that was very intriguing and positive about the image of the oil and gas industry in the country. So it's very positive. People who were there were blessed with an opportunity to work there. I just
Glenda,
never thought I would be in.
No, I love that. And that's what I think was so interesting about your story when we first met, and especially just how you started with Chevron. You mentioned a lot about when you were growing up, how important education was, and your dad was really, supporting you and pushing you to be educated. And I think that's really important to have those kind of mentors in your life, especially your family that sees that path for you. And you did a lot. I mean, you didn't just go to school. You worked, you did multiple things. And you were also avid in doing like activities outside of university and school. So take us back to that time when you had just started, your dad really started educating you to how that can continue to create the role for you in Chevron if you were able to get that education that was required, but more importantly, was able to really help you shape your career. Talk to us a little bit about that and how important that was for you and the impact it's had so far in your life.
Yes. So in addition to my dad pushing me on grades and being on top of my class and also always raising my hand He was looking to make sure I keep pushing. So I was in the volleyball team. I was a jazz ballet professional dancer. I was doing English. He forced me, not forced me, but highly encouraged to say, I think you doing all these things, I think you can go for a double major. So he pushed me to saying, yes, you're doing political science as your main bachelor's degree and you're dancing and you have a boyfriend. I think you should go for another double major. And it doesn't matter what area. I think you should do it in modern languages. So I explore that. And he said, and there's a nugget of, I can give you my car. So that was the nugget at the time to saying, ooh, I can get a car if I go get another degree at nighttime. Because again, one was in the morning, was the night I was dancing in the middle of the day. So I said, let's go for it, which again, it brings back to the hardworking, being all the time busy, having to manage your time, and not putting boundaries on yourself. I was doing French on Saturdays and English in between. Plus, again, I ended up working with one of my professors too in an English class where she said, hey, Glenda, I have this opportunity for you to teach English 101 to Chevron employees, and I needed money. So I said, sure, why not? So the classes were at 6:30 in the morning, 6:30 to 7:30 before the employees going to work. So that will be close to the field in Richmond offices, which was far from where I was. So I will drive. I didn't have a car then. So I will drive with my professor to teach classes. And again, it just teaches you the resiliency of having a full busy day. Every minute counts. And I was, again, volunteering university to plan events and work and keep my grades high and prepare papers for both of the degrees. So again, that piece of multitasking, trying to do a lot of things, not wasting any minute, I think it helped me. And if I think about it, if I hadn't gone for that other double major, which led me to Chevron, who led me to an internship, and here I am, that wouldn't have happened. I don't think it is that combination where things happen, are meant to be there, and it opened the door to Chevron, and I'm happy it happened, and he encouraged me to do that.
You know, things only make sense when you connect the dots backwards, just to see how one decision really kind of changed your trajectory, which is really interesting when you pinpoint of this is kind of what led to where I am today was, you know, teaching English to Spanish to Chevron employees in Venezuela, because you were at this school specifically. So we're going to kind of speed up a little bit the career part, because there's so much to your story we want to get into. But, you know, you did become an intern for Chevron, I believe, as in the contracts department.
Yep.
And then you did a few other, you know, smaller roles before you decided to go and move abroad to the US with your husband for a master's degree. And, you know, bring us back a little bit to the challenges of immigrating to the US and just the challenges that it comes from the weather, because I believe you were in a cold place. I think it was Chicago, in the cold place. Yeah, sorry, there. So cold, you're not used to it. You're not used to maybe how people speak English a certain way, and you know, you're a foreigner. Tell us a little bit of the navigating the struggles, because you mentioned it was not easy. You had very specific amounts of money that you had to make sure you had a budget, that you had to kind of make work throughout the months. Bring us back through that for those who, you know, haven't experienced this or who did themselves and want to kind of hear yours.
Yes, it feels like a long time ago. Deciding when I got a Fulbright scholarship. So that's the only way I could afford coming to study in the United States was applying for that. Again, hundreds of applicants, and I got the one Fulbright scholarship that they gave that year to go. I ended up going to Michigan State. My husband and I evaluated, okay, we got married and we went as newlywed, but we said we have to pick a university that had both of our degrees, that was a top school, had to have the season because in Maracaibo it's hot and hotter. So we wanted to experience the seasons, and we ended up in Michigan State. And yes, it came in with multiple challenges around various things. We were living on a one-person scholarship for living for both of us. His dad was paying for his degree, and as a foreigner, it's very expensive. So he had a job extra. So we were, stretching the money for both of us. We were using all the food banks that were at the university at the time, the church food bank, the school food bank, to kind of have the vouchers for milk and eggs. We didn't have lots of money to any kind of fun activity. We will go to the movies for free at the school. And we didn't have a car, which again, when you go to Michigan and the cold snow and winter, it was harsh. Everything had to go through the bus or walk. So, and we're not used to it. And now reflect back, we had terrible winter clothes because again, winter clothes are expensive. So you couldn't afford the good clothes. So only if I knew. So anyway, so that was a part around financial and all the things that we had to figure out to navigate when we went to Michigan. At the time, Michigan did not have a lot of diverse population or Latinos there. We had a group called Amigos y Amistades, which was the Michigan State Latino group. There were 15 of us. That was it, and our partners or accompanying spouses. There was not a lot of that. So that was our honing, coming back to what we know and the food that we like and the get-togethers and the figuring out what to do where. They were a network to figuring out where do you find the harina pan to make the arepas? Where do you find get together where where you can go dancing. So it was with that group that we became close, in addition to making our friends that were part of our own classes. And that one in particular was a challenge for us. We never studied in the United States. It was the first time we were writing papers in English and the system itself. And I felt personally when we came in, how we felt the treatment from folks that were born Americans with foreigners, because again, we had accent and we were trying to figure things out. And there was a little bit of the assumption that because we did not speak as fluently as they did, we were not capable of keeping up. So when they were doing team projects, they will not pick the international students to be part of those. It ended up being the international students going by themselves. So for me, it was like, I'm going to prove them wrong. And quickly they realized that, she's getting 4.0s straight on everything. And she's writing better papers than we do, because in Venezuela, we love writing. So we love it. So they were coming and asking for help. And not before that, not long after that, I was the one picking up the teams because they wanted to work with me. So it ended up being a great journey as to from where we started to where I ended with, again, a 395 GPA and other honors and the lead for one of the committees in the school. So again, it was that resilience to say, you're not going to stop me. I'm going to show you. I'm going to prove you wrong. I've done it before. I'm doing it again. And that's a little bit of the navigating, being a foreign student with a different language in a new country and a new school and a new setting. So it helped build that resiliency that helped me through as I move in other jobs in the future with Chevron and figuring out the unknown and the gray space, and it's going to be fine.
What I think is so amazing is that at the time when you're going through that, you really don't know what it's setting up you for the future. And long after, you got an international assignment to go to Kazakhstan, which honestly, I had to look up where it was because I never heard of it until recently. And so, you got an offer to do this. You had a son. He was 2 years old at the time. And your husband even had to quit his job. And y'all had just turned 30. So you were quite young, getting such a great opportunity. But this didn't scare you at all. You were like, you know what, I'm going to go for it. And then I remember you ended up telling us that it was one of the best experiences. And y'all ended up spending over 4 years there. Yes. New language, different way of working. What advice do you have for families that get this opportunity? Because I feel like it is one of those once in a lifetime, roles that you get. And a lot of people don't really know how to navigate that. Because I'm sure at this time, you probably weren't Googling where Kazakhstan is and what to do there and stuff. So it's a little bit easier now, but what did you learn from this international assignment, and how was it even bringing your son over there?
Yes. Thank you, Jamie, when I was part of the Chevron HR development, human resources development program. And as part of that, you're asked if you're mobile. And that could mean moving to at that time, Chevron operated in 150 countries. So it could be one of those. So I said to my husband, hey, they're asking me if we are mobile. And this is what it will mean. And my husband loves traveling and loves languages. And we were kind of doing multiple SWOT analysis as to if I stay, if you go, if we both go, if you stay, and all the permeation. He's an engineer. So we were going through all that conversation. And he said, okay, let's think about who has the highest aiming point of the two of us. Because what we want is the best for our family. Give them the best shots. that they have. And he said, I think it's you, Glenda. So say yes. They probably won't tell you that you're going to move. So lo and behold, yes, I got a call. Glenda, we have this job for you in Kazakhstan as the HR manager for Eurasia, which included Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Russia, Turkey. It was the first expert assignment. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so honored. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And just like you said, Jamie, I went hang up. I was like, where is it again? What do they speak? I was like, yes, we're going, Ramon, we're going to Kazakhstan. And he's like, alrighty, let's go. But like you said, it came with an alignment beforehand that we were ready for anything. So we aligned on that, and we had to make tough decisions. Some folks tell me sometimes you don't talk about the sacrifices. That was one of the first sacrifices that we had to make, because he was an engineer, he was a manager of a service company for oil companies. And for him to go with us, he had to quit his job, not knowing when he was going to work again and figuring out what that looked like. So that was the first one where we said, we're going, let's go, and we will figure it out. So again, it was going to a foreign country we'd never been to. We were coming into the airport, and you see letters that you cannot even read. And we were like, what did we do? So quickly we said, okay, what are we going to do about this? We love the adventure. We were very open-minded to say, okay, let's start with language. So we started learning Russian. Both him and I, he got better Russian than I did, because he was out there with the helpers in the house, with going to the supermarkets and speaking all the time, versus me in the office where it was mainly English. So his Russian got way better, but we thought Russian is a conduit to connecting with the locals. So we made super good friends that help us along the way on figuring out. We tried all kinds of foods. We never say no to anything. It's because we said, if we're going to experience, let's do it all. So from camel milk to horse meat to liver that I normally don't like liver. There was liver in the soup, but let's go for it. So again, we were all out to the whole thing, which again, they welcomed us because they knew and they saw that we were trying. Even if our Russian wasn't good, even if, sometimes we were like, what is this? We were up for that challenge, and they appreciated that as respect to the culture. And my son was 2. And again, for him, when they're little, it's easier, because it's easier just to move them. They're in a daycare, they're playing, they're watching movies, and we could kind of protect them in that space, versus when they're older and it's tougher. So I think we have very fond memories. We were staying there for as long as they kept us. We travel a lot because, again, from Eurasia, we just went to so many places. But again, that piece of growth mindset and adventure to, like, it won't be like home. We were far from family. That was huge for us. Being Latinos, you're super close, and the fastest we could get, it was 24 hours if you wanted to go for an emergency or something like that. And there wasn't FaceTime, and there wasn't Amazon, and there was Netflix, and all of that. We just figure out what life could look like and make the best out of it.
I love that you mentioned that, just because I think a lot of people, especially in the oil and gas industry, have that opportunity because most companies are so global. And it's something that I think a lot of people are usually scared of. But we've had so many people come on the podcast that just share such positivity from an international role. And of course, it's not always perfect. It's not always going to be great, and you're not going to miss home. You're not going to miss your family or like what you are used to. But everyone leaves an international role with just a different mindset, different appreciation for things, and just resilience and adaptability. And so I think, this is another podcast of like, take that opportunity if it comes your way, because it will shape you into becoming who you are, and even like taking on different challenges later on in life, etc. So, you've had a lot of leadership roles through Chevron in the last 20 years. You mentioned there was a specific one, as you were a little bit more senior, and you felt a little bit of, professional skepticism in your leadership role, and you just had a harder time to break into your teams. It's not that easy to go from country to country and like different even groups within the company and kind of restart all over again in a way where they don't know what kind of leader you are, or like, who are you and why are you sent here? Like, you just never know as you're switching so much between business lines and just countries. Can you tell us a little bit of kind of how you overcame that negativity or doubt in your career, and any advice that you'd have for anybody who's dealing with similar challenges?
Yes, and that was a particular one, because the team I was leading was a team of subject matter experts. who had been doing what they do for 30 plus years, and I was 30. So that can tell you a little bit of, they've been doing this for a living, and that's how long I've been living. So that we have a process called new leader assimilation, which we recommend for every transition that you have. And it's a facilitated conversation between you and your direct reports, 60 to 90 days into the job. And you get a kind of a grounding conversation and saying, what's working well? What does the team need differently? What could you do differently to help them continue performing? And to me, that was one of the toughest that I did, because they were very honest, which I appreciated, because they helped me like reground, like, well, how do I need to act differently? And the theme was around, you're one of those high potentials who don't know anything about what we do. How long are you going to be here? So of course I was like first shocked, and because I've never gotten that direct feedback that early into a job, and I was, okay, I'm done. I haven't even started. So, but for me, it was like first an aha in saying that your leadership have to adapt to what the team needs and what the organization needs. So I was lucky to have a conversation with my supervisor then in saying, I just heard this. So of course I was nervous. There was tears. There was like, what am I going to do? So she helped me kind of elevate in saying, Glenda, I think you need to remember why you were selected for this job. And that helped me ground on those strengths that I was bringing to that team at that time. At that time, they needed connection to the business, which I have been traveling for different areas globally. I could bring that. They need network and connections to whatever offerings they have resonate to those teams. I had that network to help them connect the dots and have build that network and support for us. I was honest with them. I'm not going to become an expert. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to help provide direction, inspire, remove the barriers, make sure I give coaching, and make sure that we deliver what we need to deliver. So having the humility to say, I'm not expected to become an expert. I will ask lots of questions. I'm willing to do the learning, which I did. I was like super quick study, but it's not like I want to do your job. I'm not here to do that. I'm going to help you shine and do great things. So that turned around pretty quickly about just being humble on what you know and what you don't, what you're willing to put and commit, and honing on those strengths and what you bring to the table and why you were selected for that job, and make it play out so they can see it. So again, I think those are some of the things that sometimes we just shut down, but it was more like, let me unpack what's going on and why you're saying what you're saying. And let's shift and pivot to what am I here to do and how I can help you do better, which turned around to be one of my biggest leadership experiences in my career. I work really hard. We have big deadlines, a lot of visibility, a lot of growing for me for enterprise initiatives, and for me as a leader with that strong team with experts, when there's no way you can know better than what they know. But again, your role as a leader is not to do their job, is to help them elevate and shine and do what they're supposed to do well.
The not doing their job, I think, is something that's so important that you mentioned a few times when you answered that question, because that's where I feel like people get the most insecurity, is when they think that like you're going to step in and also take over their role. And it sounds like you really fostered their roles and like they were part of the team. And that's like, they're experts in that, not you. And so you're just there to help support them and make sure, like you said, they have barriers. You're going to break them down for them. And I bet you gained a lot of respect doing that, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I think that the role of a leader is shifting in the recent years. Remember, when we used to see the leaders, you're supposed to be the one in command, the one who has all the answers, and people follow what you're told. Right now, the role of the leader is shifting and saying, I'm here to deliver through you. If my team does well, that's a reflection on me versus me trying to have all the answers. You just, in the world that we live in right now, that will be unrealistic that you will have all the answers. And then clarifying what your role is in that case, I knew what they needed. I know where I could help and make a difference versus, and knowing that I will ask questions, not to wanting to be a micromanager, seeking for understanding and trying to learn quickly. So I was clear about those. And I will say, call me out if I'm trying to do your job, because I don't want to have that time for that. I can use it for something more useful.
Exactly. Listening to you, you're just so positive, and your tone and your voice and your energy. When we heard about some of the tragedies that happened in your life, it was really shocking. And it was, at a very similar time frame, you unfortunately lost your mother. And then something that no parent should ever go through, you lost a child, which is just devastating. I could only imagine the feelings of that. And and how you just didn't shut down. Like, you continued on and you continue to be successful and to utilize that as a strength of yours. I'd love for you to share, how can people that go through something that's such a tragedy in their life, how can they use that as a positive? And I believe also you picked up running, or you did something, I think, that like you really enjoyed and was kind of like an honor to her. Talk to us a little bit about that, and really just like, what did you learn from such a tragic time in your life that you still use today?
Yes. So my mom passed away. First, let me say, you cannot prepare for any of those losses, even though you tried, even though some people they're old, or you can prepare on how you're gonna react. So that's one thing that I say to people. It's okay if you don't know how you're gonna react, because it depends on you what's happening at that moment. My mom passed away at 54 of a sudden heart attack while she was on vacation in my house in Calgary. We were talking just like what we are talking right now. She said, I'm not feeling well. I'm going to go upstairs and rest, finish up my spaghetti sauce that she was doing. And I said, sure, sure, sure. I'll finish it up. I went back and she didn't respond, and called 911 or the emergency call group from Canada. And that was it. So again, I was not prepared for that. It came very suddenly. She had no history to say that. And for me was like, I love my mom. She left me so young. I said, I don't want to die at 54. So it was a call to action for me, and saying, oh my God, what am I going to do? I wasn't a sportive person. I always say, oh, I have to lose weight. That was the thing. How do I lose weight? I love food. I love wine, all the good stuff. And it was like, okay, I'm going to start doing Zumba. So I started doing Zumba a little here. I found out about Go Red for Women. So that became every February, I would remind people about her health. I was learning along the way about all the things that I could do to, again, not be the one dying at 54, at least not because I couldn't control. So that was that part. Fast forward 5 years ago, my daughter, Viviana, a 1-year-old, passed away of a cardiac arrest. And you mentioned, Jamie, that I did shut down, but it was temporary. And I think when you lose a child, is your heart broken. There's no words to explain what that looks like, but I just didn't want to wake up. I didn't know, what am I supposed to do in this world. I just lost my daughter. So it took me a few weeks to kind of figure out what that looked like. And a few things that I was trying to think about what helped me come out of that, which I didn't think I could. Was faith was the first one. I mean, saying, okay, I may not why this happened to me, but there has to be some science as to help me heal, give me the strength to keep going and waking up every day. I have 3 more kids in the house that I need to care of. I have a husband. I have a job that they're relying on me for. So please give me the strength. So that was one. Faith was a huge one. Love from my family, love from my friends. The Chevron family just showed up in all kinds of ways, through texts, through letters, through cards, through food, gifts. So all that love, it was like, okay, they didn't hear back from me for a while because I wasn't ready to talk to nobody. But I could feel, I fueled my, okay, I need to do something. My son, I think it was 6 weeks after she passed away, my son, Ramon, said, Mom, you were training for a half marathon. You stop, put on your shoes, you're going to feel better. And my son is autistic. So out of the blue, he comes in and said, Mommy, put on your shoes. We're going to go for a run. You need to go training. I did put the shoes on, and it was like running, because my heart was beating so hard, felt like a connection to Viviana, and saying, okay, I'm going to run for both of us. And it became a movement through connection and other people coming along. And just from then on, again, running has become another way to connect to her and honor her and my mom, and saying, I'm taking care of my heart. I'm bringing others along. And it's just learning how do you live with grief. I don't think grief goes away as your heart gets stronger, to living, how to live with it and trying to honor them in ways that you're translating sadness into love. And that's what I do. All the things that I do on a daily basis is a way to fuel that sadness and turn it into positivity and love, even though sometimes I cry every day, or I feel like I remember something, and it's okay. You just give your space to live with that.
Well, Glenda, thank you for being just so vulnerable and sharing with us on this podcast. I know it is not easy to talk about this, especially it's so personal, but I do know you're going to help someone that's going to listen to this podcast and just be an inspiration to so many people who sometimes, we worry about, we sweat the small stuff, and we just see people like yourself who actually have to deal with very difficult things and still come out on top. So for me, that's a huge source of inspiration of look at just how you get up every day and take on life, and you're positive. And like Jamie said, we had no idea because of just how bubbly your personality is, just how happy you look today, to know that you've been through that. But it's just all about your mindset and all the positive things that you're doing. I see you running on Instagram all the time. I'm sure you're inspiring a lot of people who have not put on their shoes to get up and take care of your heart health. You're right. It's our duty too as parents to make sure that we are here for our kids, especially if we can take care of ourselves, like you're doing now. Another thing that was really interesting when we spoke to you, you did mention you have a son with autism, you have 2 other kids, you dealt with, Viviana's passing, etc. Tell us a little bit about how you dealt with your career, because you were still advancing and going through so much personal stuff, right? Like, I would say for a lot of people, if this happened to them, they would just, like, I'm done. But you continued, you were able to overcome all of those challenges and still have a very successful career. I know when we spoke to you, you mentioned that for the longest time, you kept this away from your colleagues. You didn't tell Chevron necessarily about, dealing with your son during the moves, et cetera, because you felt maybe there would be some unconscious bias towards you. And I think it's so important for us to talk about this, because still now in the workplace, we do feel there is a lot of unconscious bias, even when they're going to promote a woman, like, she just had a child. They usually have children, within 2 years. Maybe she's going to be pregnant soon, or, oh, she just got married. Maybe she's going to start a family. Like, so many decisions get made for women, just not in a negative way, but they're trying to think for us, or trying to, like, oh, maybe she can't handle it, etc. Tell us a little bit about, how you kept it from your colleagues, or why in that moment you felt like it wasn't worth sharing, and what advice would you have nowadays about when to share with your work and when not to?
I think there's no perfect answer for when someone is ready. At the time, again, we're talking, he's 20 now. At that time, talking about, again, autism, even for us, we did not know what it meant. So we went into like shock. What do we do? We needed the space. My husband is very private. He doesn't like talking about a lot of things. We were away from family in Kazakhstan. So nobody knew for a while we were like, we need to process. So I think that if I have to say something to someone, you need to process what's happening and how could that impact and how are you going to react to it. So we took our time to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? Do we have the support that we need? I became a PhD on autism and diets and interventions and all of it on my own. That was my night job or weekends job, how to help my son. While still, again, the expectations in the office were there. I just felt like the workplace at the time wasn't ready to have those conversations without maybe having an impact on me. And again, it may be my old perception at the time, but I think now we're talking way more openly about some of those challenges, because again, if you're not well at home, how can you be productive? But I don't think the workplace was there then. And I did not want to jeopardize others making, like you said, Massiel, decisions for me. Like, oh, now she has a kid with special needs. My son moved with us 7 or 8 times after that. And we always figure it out. Yes, a lot of work to reground the support, reground the therapies, figure out where, the systems were, the bed nannies and support groups. And I had another daughter that was born along the way that we have to figure out. But I think is that piece on it also help him be resilient and adjusting, because we knew it was going to happen. So if I see right now, he still remembers some of the moves and some of the things that he lived. He has great memories. He remembers. I see pictures, like he remembers the place and where he was, and I had lots of people that were personally supporting us. But it wasn't until not long ago, and I'm talking the last. I actually first talked about it openly in a forum last year. And I'm being with Chevron again 25 years. So wow. I think the workplace I'm optimistic, but it's in a better place, where part of it is figuring, having the empathy to understand what's going on. They're asking more questions before assuming. And also you have a role in making sure that you own your own story and what you're ready to share. I cannot tell anybody go ahead and share because I don't know their environment. I don't know who the supervisor is. I've been very supportive of my supervisors throughout with my kids. At some point in my career, I said, my job was announced. I was going to be the African Latin America general manager. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. So my first meeting with my boss was, hi, my name is Glenda. I'm your new general manager, and I'm going to be on maternity leave in 5 months, which I thought was like, oh my God, they're going to fire me. And their response was like, I love family. Make sure you get someone good while you're gone. The job will be waiting here for you. And same when I came back from maternity leave, again, I have my structure set up. I had to travel a lot. So it was that ability. I've been doing flex for years. So I have very supportive bosses who said, use the flex, your work will get done. And I've never dropped the ball on work while I figure all the balls and figure out what my priorities are. So optimistically, we're in a better place for the workplace, and it depends on each of your situation. Figure out what you want out of it when you're ready to share, and how you want it to share. So hope that helps.
No, I think what I really think is important about everything that you have shared today on the podcast is you've had a lot of stuff going on in your life. I mean, you have a son that is autistic. You have a daughter that unfortunately passed. You lost your mother early on. You have 3 kids. You have a lot of aspects that a lot of women would think there is no way I can take a leadership role. Who's going to want me as a leader? How am I going to have time to be a leader? I need to just stay in my role, not ask for the manager role. And with that, I really want to ask you this last question, which is around, many women have those barriers that they put up. And listening to you, I think if anything breaks down every single one of them. However, what advice would you have for those that would want to pursue a leadership role, but really wonder about their potential? And how do you not let those barriers kind of hold you back? I know they can kind of become excuses for us to not take that role. So what would you tell those women who are capable, but maybe feel that, how are they going to have the time to do that?
Yes. That's a great question. And one thing that I'll start by saying, there isn't a single path to leadership. I did a session where I found my career development plan when I was 3 years in the company. And the highest I could see myself was a team leader. That was oh my gosh, she wants to be a team leader, which tells me a little bit on sometimes it's us putting the limitations, not everyone else. So that's the first thing I say is there's not a single path to leadership. And sometimes if you don't know where you're aiming for, it's okay. You'll figure out along the way what are the possibilities. And I think the one part that sometimes women forget is you are in control. You are in control because it may require to assess first, is this what I want for me and my family? It may not be. It's someone like us that move 11 times. That may not be for someone else. And it's okay. But you know that out of the get-go. Sometimes to get into those roles is one of those differentiators. And for us in Chevron, those opportunities just open other things that would have never happened if I hadn't taken those, or if I wasn't as flexible that whatever they told me I was in. Talk to your partner, spouse, significant other, because it's a joint decision. If you have a family, you cannot decide that on your own. Like I said, we had that conversation, are we mobile? And that meant sacrifices for my husband's career. He ended up working for a little bit, figuring out other ways to find reinvent himself as to what his role is. But again, you have to have that conversation early to assess what are the possibilities or limitations. And then that comes with the territory and saying, am I willing to do it or not? Perform. That I can't say that louder. Performance leads to recognizing the good work that you do and the possibilities of keep stretching you into new roles. And that's going to talk for what can you do or what will you be able to do in the future. So if you don't have a performance, nothing else is going to pan out, because again, it's for those the competitive slates that you're competing. Performance is one of the key differentiators for stretching you into bigger roles. Don't be afraid of the unknown. I always say, yes, we'll figure it out. I don't know today, but we'll figure it out. And I always say, yes, I don't like moving and inventories and all of that comes along with establishing every time we move, but there's always wine waiting for me at home to kind of say, tomorrow will be another day. and we'll start. And today was a bad day. Tomorrow we'll have a chance to restart again. So when you go to move and new jobs, it's always that, flexibility to say, we will figure it out. Tomorrow is another chance to figure out. Staying curious, that's the other one I say. Never stop being curious. Doesn't matter how high in the organization you are. Continuing to learn. Raise your hand for projects. If you cannot do certain things because you're limited in a certain time because of your family needs or your personal needs, continue stretching internally or externally. There's so much out there right now that we did not have before, to not stopping learning ever. And the world is changing so quickly that's one of the key things that we're looking for the leaders of companies today and the future, is that ongoing curiosity to keep going. One that I talk to people, call me out all the time, is stay humble. Doesn't matter how high you're in the company. I'm still Glenda. I'm still if I talk to people in Venezuela to when I was an admin, they say, hey, Glenda, we love, please don't change. They say, every time they see a job announcement, they say, please don't change, Glenda, stay you. And that's part of me that I've been able to keep honing on as a differentiator, because you're going to find Glenda. Yes, sometimes my English isn't perfect, and it's okay. And sometimes things are not good, and I talk about it. Today's not a good day. I'm not smiling, and it's okay. I can't smile every day. But I don't take it personal. I try to, again, rely on all the people that have been a blessing throughout my career to be there for me in all the ups and downs. And like you're saying, yes, lots have happened to us. The fear of tragedies or challenges, we have a long list of those. But again, the resiliency of the love of my family and a husband that is super supportive, the community and the village that has been behind me and lift me when I couldn't lift myself. It's so special. And like I said, I wouldn't be here where I am talking today to both of you and to others who are listening if it wasn't because of that. So enjoy the ride. It won't be perfect, but it's yours.
Glenda, I honestly, just listening to you today, it's just made my day. I mean, you are just, and to the point of being humble, you're so humble, and like everything that's gone on, everything that's happened, and moving 11 times, and your children. And it's just, I just absolutely love this podcast for this reason, to be able to share stories like yours. Cause I bet you, anybody who knows you probably would have never thought any of this.
I would have thought it myself. Like talking about the possibilities is like, oh no, I would have never thought. And I'm loving it. And again, I have lots of more things. And I hone on that purpose of like, why am I here? We're here beyond a job. And I think, Massiel, you mentioned about what my daughter and my mom's loss taught me. One is what's really important at the end of the day. It's the love of the people that are around you. The job will be there. The emails will be there tomorrow. Trust me, they don't go anywhere. And then keeping that relativity as to what really requires your level. So when my team is freaking out, one thing I said, is anybody dying? Is anybody going to jail? And even if they die, it's too late. We can't do anything. So let's step back, take a breath, and reground, because again, life will hit you. It's just a matter of time and how. And we have to think about it that, well, as long as we're able to wake up every morning and saying, okay, we have a chance to start over again.
Glenda, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. And
thank you for the chance.
For everybody who has listened to this podcast, I know you'll be inspired, but more importantly, Glenda is coming on a panel at one of our events. You have to.
Yes, she is.
Like, you're just phenomenal. And
I'll say yes. I'll say yes. If there's a way to pay it forward, you can do it. I mean, it's you are it. You can make it happen with so many people behind you to support it. And like I said, we're blessed to be alive. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that, having the conversation with you, seeing your smiles, you made my day. Mm-hmm. So life is good. And yes, it has some sad moments, and there's more happier than sad. So let's keep remembering that.
Thank you, Glenda. And if you like this podcast, please like, subscribe, leave us a comment, go follow Glenda, go be inspired today. And thank you so much for joining us and listening in. We'll catch you on the next podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.